thing and a subject matter to cover, right? To walk over the top of victoriously, right? And that is being able to powerfully have super strong endurance in life so that you can ride over the top of, ride prosperously, and trample over the top of anything that seems like an obstacle, okay? We're talking about having super endurance and like eternal endurance here in life because of knowing how life works, and more specifically, these so-called low points in life, okay? What are these low points? There are certain time frames within your life where the automatic energy level is just simply at a lower point. This, at the ocean, this would be compared to a low tide, compared to a high tide, right? Like a falling tide compared to a rising tide. So that has a different effect on you as a human, right? So the key here, and think about this, having super endurance, right, comes from divine wisdom and intelligence to be able to see and comprehend clearly what is actually going on in the world and in the universe and in your life around you, and knowing exactly what life cycles you're in. And by knowing this, guess what happens? We know why everything is how it is right now, and we know how it can actually be improved in the future. And that with like a certainty. So then that's really good, because then you can sail smoothly during the sort of calmer or these so-called low points. See, I'm very selective with language. What I'm talking about is when things are slow, okay? Whatever sort of a, what do you call that? What should we call this? Okay, like right now, in the middle of wintertime, you know, you'd like your bank account to fill up, you know, and it's like, how is this going to work, right? How are you going to make this work, right? Well, look, talking about being able to sail smoothly, right? To walk over the top of, trample over anything in life that seems like an obstacle because of having like eternal endurance, because of having wisdom and knowledge about life and how it works, and knowing when there are high points and low points. And so you can always make it all work very good because you have an overview of how it all works. And this thing about endurance, right? Super endurance, okay? So like the super long distance runner that can run the farthest, yeah? There's a saying from the Holy Law somewhere in the good book, in the Holy Law, it says something like, the race is not for the swift, yet for those that can endure, okay? So now look, the subject matter of endurance, right? See, there are different cycles of life that we're all in. And, you know, sometimes it's like business is booming, you're making a ton of money, right? Your bank account is just filling up, right? And you're really optimistic and you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be great, it's fine, right? Really positive periods in life, right? And at other times, it could be the exact opposite. Yet, hold on a second. The thing that they call a breakdown, like a crash, a low point, right? This type of stuff, just with, as is the case with everything, There's a certain time and a certain place when this type of stuff can happen. So there's a time of the year in every person's life when they can feel, what the world calls depressed, or whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. I think you all know what I'm talking about, right? We're talking about how to be so permanently steadfast and have eternal endurance through intelligence that you can just simply sail smoothly and make it through everything in life, and it all just, like, it's all steady and it's steadily, positively managed by yourself. How do you do that? It's because, and it's done by knowing exactly what's going on right now and what is to come. And so then, like, okay, look, because look. Picture this on the ocean. You're like sailing or something, and you have to get from A to B or whatever, and there's all of a sudden there's no wind, and you think, damn, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? Oh no. It's like, but if you knew that in 10 minutes there's gonna be wind again, right? How could you know that? It's possible to know these things. If you knew that in 10 minutes, it's going to pick up again, you would just chill out for 10 minutes and have a good time and relax, right? And you would know that I don't have to worry about anything because very soon it's all going to be moving the way it should, etc. So this is possible by having wisdom, and more specifically, it's by monitoring the cycles of life that you're in, right? Yes. And then it's also about, it's made possible by looking ahead. Now, it is a fact that nature is systematic, okay? You can see this everywhere. We all know this. It's all systematic. Just look at it. Day, night, male, female, high tide, low tide, positive, negative. It's all systematic. And the knowledge of this and how all of the cycles of life work, and much more, and even more to come, right, is actually contained in certain holy books. And it's referenced in the most important book, the Holy Law, right, the Holy Torah, even in the stories that were written by King Solomon, double honors, right? Who, talks about how when he was young, he sought wisdom, right? And then he got it. And it included the knowledge of times and cycles, even cycles of life. Now, this knowledge is so precious because, and it's actually something that it's knowledge that it has a holy biblical source and a reference, and it's also written now in other books that are quote unquote non-canonical because of how many thousands of years have gone by, and think about how much wisdom those that wrote the Holy Law and so on had. It doesn't even suffice to put it into 66 books, hallelujah, or 88 books, right? Like we have in the EOTC, Holy Biblical Canon, right? As the Rastafari, Ethiopian Oriental Orthodox, Tewahedo, anointed ones, with the Holy Biblical Canon there having 88 books compared to the Western one with 66. And even while that's the case, there's so much that it couldn't all be written in books. It's written somewhere that, like even the miracles performed by our boss, right? There's so many miracles he performed that it's not even enough to write it in the entire Holy Law. There's not enough room to write it all down. So what I'm saying is there's immense amounts of wisdom that are available from the Creator as a blessing, and when you get it, retain it and work with it. Okay, so, but now, talking about the cycles of life and wisdom, the subject matter of wisdom itself is all over in the Holy Law. Just look it up in the concordance. Okay, look up Chokmah or wisdom, right? So now, the wisdom that we're talking about here, and we're talking about working with so that you can permanently win. I'm talking about winning permanently. And even being able to make it through the times, like, the times in life when it seems like it's a disaster and like, oh my God, how am I going to pay these bills? Like, etc. No. Look, this entire thing works systematically, and it works according to a certain perfect system, because in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the Creator geometrized. And the beginning of wisdom is a fear of God. And in the beginning was wisdom, right? Reshis Hokmah. In the beginning was wisdom. So wisdom is like, it's like the knowledge of God or something. Well, the beginning of wisdom is a fear of God. So that's like to be respectful of the Creator and His creation, right? Yet, it's like true science. Knowing, like, okay, wisdom is like, all right, we got to go sailing and go fishing. So I know when the tide comes in and it goes out. When it goes out, we go out. And when it comes in again, we come in again. That's wise, right? So wisdom is such a massive subject, though. Probably the most important wisdom, though, it's almost like the most important service that wisdom provides us with is how to live a happy and a blessed life, right? So then, okay, I'm going to go right to the verse in this case. Let's just do it this way. So teach us to number our days, that we may acquire a heart of wisdom, right? You have a verse in the Psalms from the Holy Law that says, so teach us to number, right? Like to count and number our days, so that we may acquire a heart of wisdom. This is literally written in the Holy Bible in the book of Psalms, and it's the truth. And what it's talking about is probably the most important discipline and skill and life skill that's also in accordance with the legitimate godly way of life that's dictated to us by the Creator and even written in the Holy Law, and we're supposed to live by. It's actually, listen, the verse says this. It's such an important verse from the Holy Law. And a lot of people know this. There are millions of humans out there who read this and know of this. But like, okay, the key here, the goal is like, okay, so how do you literally get a wise heart and mind from God that's like filled with the highest wisdom? I mean, look, it's written about. It's possible to get a heart filled. See, a heart and mind is like a similar thing. So what I'm saying is, it's actually the case that you're supposed to get a heart and mind, or to have, you're literally supposed to be filled with divine wisdom, straight from God Himself. And it's possible to get that. It's a blessing, basically. It's like, see, all the good things in life are a blessing for intelligent obedience, keeping a standard amount of law and order in relationship, like in the covenant with the Creator, okay? And therefore you get blessed. And one of the blessings includes wisdom. Now, this is such a massive subject because, see, I could talk about this for the rest of my life and I couldn't cover it all. What I'm saying, though, it's like this, is that you get additional wisdom from the Creator on and on. It just keeps getting better and better. You get more and more intelligent, wise, instruction and guidance from the Creator, to the point where you know things, you can foresee the future and you can determine the future and make it a certain way. And let's be a little more pinpointed here. I have to stay on point. I'm talking about the cycles of life. So now this series, right? Actually, this live stream is talking about how to make it. So how to have super eternal endurance, okay? And more than just the ability to endure, but also the ability to manipulate and to change things in your life and in life to your best and divinely ordained legitimate advantage, okay? That's another thing. So like how to make this work, how it's got to work, so we make it through good and so we're good to go. That's another thing too, because when I say endurance, don't think that I'm saying like, I know It's like, oh, we have to endure. No, I'm gonna actually wisely, man of God, manage all of this and make it work the way I intend it to. That's how it works. Like, so we're saying like you have mastery. We have mastery over all this. Yet it is important to have endurance too. So when I say endurance, don't think that I'm talking about like having to endure and not having the power to overcome. I'm talking about how to overcome and even sail smoothly through everything, even what seems like a difficulty. Listen, this is so brilliant and it is so true. Even the idea of when we think like, uh-oh, damn it. Like I've got these bills, right? These goddamn bills. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. These goddamn bills. Hallelujah. God will provide, right? And so what you have is you have objectives that have to be accomplished. Now, there's always a way to accomplish things systematically, but like these are like the things that go on in everyday life where they could be described as problematic. One could go and say, God damn it. These bills are laying on the table. And how am I gonna do this, right? Anything. How are you gonna do it? How are you gonna achieve your objective? How are you gonna make that thing happen? Well, there's a way to do it that works every time. And it's according to God's law and with wisdom. Nothing and nobody can stop you from winning. You just permanently win, win, win. I know this because I do this. But the thing is, you have to know and you have to have wisdom, and you have to have wisdom on and about the cycles of life. The cycles of life now are what makes it so that sometimes, it seems like it's better than at other times. Like sometimes, you're working somewhere, you're making a ton of money, right? But in another time, right? And you think, damn, what am I going to do? Uh-oh, the middle of winter. Uh-oh, how are we going to pay these bills? How am I going to pay the rent? All this stuff, right? Could be anybody, could be anything. It's the same human sort of a situation that goes on. Well, there's nothing to worry about because, see, the way that you think and the way that you view things has to be realistic. Now, when I say that it has to be realistic, you have to look at life and live life with the intelligence that stems from God's wisdom that gives you insight and overview as to how everything in life works. And this is what we do, okay? And so should you. And in addition to that, with that, you see, how is it actually, so what I'm describing, how is this done? It's very simple. All you have to do is like monitor the cycles of life that you are in. And then first of all, it's almost like this. If we could look at not the clockwork, but like, if we could open this whole thing up and see how it works. If you could open life up and see how it works, right? You would basically be looking at it, and it would be a system, and it would be something that you experience or comprehend as wisdom. You have this wisdom. I know that here's what's going to happen so here's what's set to happen. The potential is here for this or for that. This is what I should, this is what I shouldn't. And now I can make that happen, right? It's like that. Well, the way that this is done is the following. And to understand this from your perspective, know that, so every one of us, every human, and everything in life actually, is cyclical. And there's an eternal cycle of eternal life, apparently, too. But every human life, more specifically, is cyclical. In other words, so there are about 9 different cycles of life that are relevant and that every human being is in individually and differently than anyone else, and should always monitor as much as possible. Just like paying attention to, what time the sun rises to go out, rather than going out in the middle of the dark and running through the woods and like not being able to see. It's the same logic, okay? 9 different cycles of life are relevant. The longest one is the simple overall period of human life of 144 years. It starts when a human being takes their first breath upon being born, right? And goes up to about a maximum of 144 years, okay? And then during all of that, you have your soul personality too, okay? Then, so I'll recommend the book to you in a second, okay? Yet, listen first, before we get into this. So I'm talking about monitoring. See, as a human being, as someone who's a master, what is a master? It's somebody who is able to determine their destiny. You're a master of your life and your destiny. You're not subject to coincidence, chance, or any sort of unknown factors and like the sort of thing like, oh, you can't change the future, you know, you can't do anything about it, you can't change your fate. No, you're actively determining your destiny with wisdom as a master. You have mastery, you have wisdom practically applying your life, and with that, what you're doing is you're determining your destiny, you're mastering your life and your destiny even right now, okay? So what does that include? In a nutshell, it includes the ability to be able to foresee the future accurately predict the real results of any potential scenario at any given time, and moreover, while we can also foresee the future and what is possible, what is more likely to happen, what's not likely to happen, we can also make the future a certain way. This is because of being systematic and wise and prudent in this very moment as we go on and on and on and we work on this, right? So every human being is in about 9, is actually, so you're living right now as a human being, you're living within, or you're actually living in, okay, hold on. In your life, there's 9 different cycles that are going on that are important. The simple overall period of human life from 0 to 144 years, it's divided up into 7 segments of 52 days. It's divided up into 7-year segments from 0 to 144, okay? Any one of us is logically in any one of those segments, right? Based on your age. Then you have the soul personality that a person has based on their birthday. Okay, that happens to be different for every person based on their birthday. Sort of similar to what they call the zodiac, where there's like 12 different zodiac signs. It's sort of similar to that because, see, the logical order in creation has been recognized and it's been interpreted differently by different cultures and religions and classification systems. Even the thing to do with the zodiac, that stuff is like packaged in a different format with different language, but it's looking at laws of nature that are real and that are there, okay? Now, okay, then you have the simple annual, the annual life cycle period of 365 days, right? Every person's annual life cycle period starts when they have their birthday, and it goes on for 365 days, and that's a solar year. And within that 365-day time frame, you have 7 52-day annual life cycle periods. So there's cycles of 7 involved. So like your annual life cycle period is it starts on your birthday, it ends just before your birthday, and it restarts on your birthday. It's the same every year. And that is made up of 7 52-day segments, right? Wherein it's particularly good for certain things in business, personal life, and health life, and so on. Okay, now look. The next cycle that's going on is the short lunar unit of 3.5 days that alternates between negative and positive constantly. This goes on all over the Earth plane, okay? And then you've got the short lunar unit of 3 hours that constantly alternates between negative and positive. And that also leads up to, or is part of what makes there be 2 high tides a day and 2 low tides a day, okay, at the ocean. Right, and then there's the daily periods of the cycles of life that are 3 hours and 25 minutes in length, and there are 7 of these a day, and 7 days makes us strong, right? Good. Now look, one has to have a calendar, and one has to look and actually map out and see, okay, like today on this day, right? What is it today? It's the 14th of January, 2026, right? At 5:24 p.m., right? How old am I? I'm 38 years old, forever young, okay? So then, like, when was my birthday? Okay, so what life cycles am I in, right? Like, what's the daily period? What's the short lunar unit? What's the long lunar unit? What's the annual life cycle period? What's the simple overall period of human life? And what's my soul personality? What is it, again, that I'm good at? Oh, I'm good at being a lawyer, a doctor, this, that. I'm not supposed to do this. Okay, so you always have these 9 different cycles that you're looking at from, say, ideally a couple times every day, from time to time. And the more, and listen, with all of this and everything that I'm reporting to you here is like this. If you put in this much wise work, then you get this much return. If you put in this much wise work, you get that much return. It's all based, so like there are levels to this. There are levels, just like there's levels of accuracy and quality of what people can produce, okay? This is just a basic introduction though. So as I say this now, look, basically every one of us is in, look, like me standing here, right? As I speak right now, see, because I'm a certain age, when the day that I was born, right? Like since I was born, it's 38 years ago. Okay. So now between 0 and 144, I'm in like the space of 38, and that's in a segment of 7. That's like the 6 simple overall period of human life. The 6th segment of 7 years between from 0 to like 144, right? So then, okay, so I know, okay, I'm in that period, right? I'm in that cycle of life right now. Okay, then what is actually going on with the, what about the lunar units of the cycles of life? You know, what are they? Well, today's the 14th. On the 18th, we have a new moon. 3 days before a new moon, it's a positive short lunar unit for 3.5 days. Right now, we're still in the negative one. Okay. What about the tides? Okay, we have a tide at 5:45. So now I know, for example, look, I can go and I can look and I can see, based on the data that's available from, for example, the lunar cycle, like the new moon, the full moon, the tides, all of that stuff is like clockwork. It's like looking at the clockwork that tells you what time it is and what's going on in creation and in the universe right now, okay? Now, that having been said, then you check what's the daily period. Like this one that we're in right now. What time is it right now? It's actually 5:27 p.m. on a Wednesday. So from 5:08 to 8:34 p.m. on a Wednesday, it's a G period of the cycles, of the daily periods of the cycles of life. It's actually a time when it's good for what they would call, what the world calls working out mechanical problems, but what could be better formulated as providing technical solutions and inventions that lead to like making things work, anything and everything in life, okay? So therefore now look, now that I know, right, okay, these are the different life cycles that I'm in right now. Now, one might ask, how do you know this is true, right? You might be watching this and asking yourself, how does he know that, like where is this? Like, is this visible? I mean, can you see this? Well, look, it's it's something that's visible, yet it's based on timekeeping, an accurate timekeeping. So it's no different than having like an airplane that left this airport at 8 a.m. and is supposed to arrive at the other airport at 11 a.m. And like while this thing is flying, we know it left at 8 a.m. over there, and we're supposed to reach there at 11 a.m. So we know what happened, and because we know what happened, we know where we actually are and how to get to where we have to go. Okay, it's sort of like that. Now, it has to do with timekeeping and calendar work. So what I'm saying now is, and to get to the main point again is, see, how do you have permanent, listen, what if you had the ability in life to have permanent endurance? When I say permanent endurance, I'm talking about being able to go and it's good and it's good and it's good and it's generally always good because you're always going steady and secure, like permanently through everything. And even more so, not even like when I say that, remember that we can determine how this all turns out and how everything goes because we're the ones determining it all the time. Every person is actually practicing. It's like you're either knowingly or unknowingly mastering your life and your destiny and even determining your future. Even I am right now. But the key, and that what makes one a master, is that you're able to actively, almost like intentionally and properly determine what happens in your life, because we're all determining it. Everyone is actually deciding their fate and their destiny, either basically consciously or unconsciously, so to say. But the key is to see clearly what's actually going on. Now look, if you have wisdom, right, you retain it and you work with it, you simply win all the time. Because look, like mastery, how does mastery work? How would I be able to endure now? So, okay, as simply as possibly expressed, right? You could ask me now, okay, so Ross, how do you have, and like, how can you show us, how do you have eternal endurance and the ability to basically endure everything? Well, it's nothing different than right now, I know exactly what life cycles I am in. And by saying that, I'm also saying that, look, because I know what life cycles I'm in. So because I know the day that I was born, right? How long ago that was. And I know how the annual life cycle works, the simple overall period of human life. I know when the new moon was, I know when the next full moon is, I know when the high tide is, I know when it's low, etc. All this stuff. Because of having all this data and information, I know exactly, so I can read, first of all, it's like, I know what time it is, proverbially. Because of knowing what time it is, I know what's going on in the universe, in the world around me, based on how everything works according to a certain system that also works in in a way that can be mapped out with linear time. Even the time from when you were born, right, till 144 years, right? So even that, okay, you get what I'm saying? So it's about knowing, it's like having a map. You know where you stand on this map of life because you know where you came from, when it started, and how it works according to the system and the layout of it, so you can reach certain objectives and accomplish certain objectives for sure. It's very simple, okay? Though it may sound complicated, look, self-mastery is actually easy if you do it right. And when I say self-mastery, you should know, dear viewers, right? You should know that what I'm talking about is not just like intellectual, theoretical knowledge. No, I'm talking about being able to know that, okay, even if the world ends right now, I don't have anything to worry about because I know how the world works and I can make it all work a certain way so that it works good for me in accordance with God's will and also good for hopefully everybody and every creature. Like that's what mastery is. also um, inclusive of in terms of what you can do, okay? So mastery is like having the upper hand, the rightful upper hand, and the grip, the legitimate grip on and over everything that can happen. Now I'll go in, should I go into detail about this? About what can happen and what can't happen and how you can make, and if you pay close attention, you can even make that happen and not have that happen. It's like that, okay? There's more to this. But look, on the subject of endurance, right? It's like, okay, you see this ski slope here, right? These guys, picture these guys skiing, right? And like it's smooth here for a while, but then it gets bumpy over here, and that could be compared to like the easy times in life is where it's smooth, but the bumpy is like the oh my God, you know? Well, if I know how long it's going to be easy and I know how long it's going to be bumpy, when it gets bumpy, it doesn't even have to, but remember, you can even decide whether it's bumpy or easy if you pay attention and you put in a certain amount of wise and diligent, organized work, and you live your life with order. A little bit, you get big results, positive results. All right. So what I'm saying is, like, when the going gets tough or whatever, I'm not even going to say that because it's not how it works. Life was made perfect. Life was made to be very good, and it is actually thus. All we have to do is have a little bit of wisdom and make our God-given free will and utilize our decision-making process that we have to choose legit and wisely. And even a little bit of that makes a lot of good things. Now, there are levels to this. As I said earlier, there are levels to this in terms of that. Look, like when I said what can happen, it could, like, look, right about now, you'd think, okay, so how do you know that, you know, how life is and how it's going to be, and how can you say you can choose if it's going to be a cakewalk or if it's going to be hell, or like, well, you can choose that. I'll tell you why. You can actually make decisions that are so intelligent, and it's not even as hard as it sounds. It's actually easier than it sounds. If you just be a little bit prudent, right? It's almost like somebody riding a bike, and instead of crashing it every second because of just total like being like foolish and like just instead you're just riding it a little bit focused, and it's really a beautiful ride. It's really that simple. What you have is that, so to understand this and why this is the case, I would have to say that, and it's the truth, is that, look, everything in life and in the universe is quite simply organized, and it's perfectly organized, and it keeps on that way. Now, the most relevant and key part of that is your life. You, me, right? Like, your life is completely systematic. Whether you know it or not, now you know, it is completely systematic, even though it may seem like, because see, you can build order or chaos. It's just the potential is always there. But the thing is that what's happening is that everything is actually already in order. The truth is that the entire universe, because remember I said in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and the creator geometrized. So you have to actually be able to grasp, like, we have to be able to grasp, and this is something I have to grasp again and again, is that, look, this whole entire thing, even the world, even as chaotic as it looks in 2026, you know, there's perfection and there's imperfection. But there's a time and a place for everything on earth and under heaven. This complete and total thing here is actually perfect. It has been made perfect, and it is permanently progressing perfectly according to the basic foundational programming, right? Life, the universe, the world, everything is like, it's almost like constantly morphing, and it's made to morph perfectly. Yet the key is, will you make it morph perfectly? See, the potential is there. this is a fact. The potential is there for every human life to actually be very good, even perfect. The potential is there. It's been there since the beginning, and it remains there. It simply has to be picked up and utilized in that we become masters of our life and our destiny, and not victims of fate or victims of superstitious beliefs that are worth nothing. Anything along the lines of ignorance or foolishness is like the number one and the only problem there is. So get wisdom. With all they get understanding, right? Wisdom is a principal thing, right? If you have a little bit of it and you work with it, you'll get more of it, and it will all start working better, and it just gets better and better. Life is good. It's very good, and that's how it goes. But the key is you have to practice a certain amount of prudence and a certain amount of self-discipline. It is the case. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. These different, when I said self-discipline, that's a fact. It's an unchangeable fact. And it's not hard. We're not talking about doing like 50 push-ups and then running around with like a plate carrier or something like they do in the military in terms of discipline. Like physical fitness is good, but when I say discipline, I'm not talking about anything that's actually really hard. It's actually something that's very simple because of just kind of having things in tune or having things moving the right way as they naturally would instead of out of place. So it's not even hard. What you do have to have is self-restraint. You have to be able to force yourself to refrain from saying you or, losing your temper or doing something you're not supposed to when you could, right? Self-discipline, like the ability to take a deep breath instead of exploding, right? When you could and you feel like it. Hey, I come very close very often. But thank God I take a deep breath and I'm good to go. And I mastered that. I mastered this. I mastered that. I avoided that. I made the right thing happen. I didn't cause, So what I'm saying is that self-restraint, the ability to force yourself to refrain from something for a certain amount of time till it is the time, and then do it at the right time. That's almost the difference between permanent victory or failure. Is the ability to have mastery over yourself and your thoughts, ideas, urges, impulses, and make yourself make the right decision because you know that the consequences of this decision, whatever it is, right, doesn't matter whether great or small. 5 minutes, 500 years, whatever. The consequences, you'll produce the consequences, either negative or positive. Okay, so now. In that case, and because of that, right? Yeah, I see we have German-speaking viewers. I appreciate it, but it's easier to go in English. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I imagine you must. We have videos in German too about this, but basically, look, the key here. And even the key to mastery, because look, you could have all the wisdom that exists and have it. You could be the wisest man ever, smarter than King Solomon even. But if you didn't have like a little bit of self-discipline, it wouldn't work for you. So the ability to force yourself to have, like our boss said, like seid nicht Sklave eurer Gelüste, right? He said, he said, don't be like I don't like to use the word, but don't be in, let's say it this way, don't be in bondage to your urges. So don't be a victim to your own cravings, right? Have yourself in check and get yourself in check a little so that you have yourself in check so that you can control yourself. Because if you can do that, you already have it all mastered almost because of the ability to properly live, coordinate, and even move around and make decisions in life and do things and do the right thing and not the wrong thing, okay? Give me 1 second here. I may have to pause for like